Hello, you wonderful creations out there. It is I, Supreme Me, and I'm here once again to talk to you about a game. And this video's game that I'm talking about is going to be the one and only, the greatest, the progenitor of all games of its kind to console. It is none other than Dragon Quest XI-S. The Dragon Quest series has a rich history, and I'll show some pictures here about it started. Came out in 1986, a year and some change before the first Final Fantasy came out. So when I was young, I thought Final Fantasy was out for a long time. But no, Dragon Quest goes back even further and introduced the whole gameplay RPG mechanics to consoles when it comes to leveling up, going to a store, buying new weapons, sleeping at an inn to refill your life, going to a certain safe spot to save the game. In Dragon Quest, it's the church areas. Even Dragon Quest V, a little bit of history on this, was the first monster hunting game ever. The monster hunting, or the monster catching, rather. Getting the monster to follow you was just a little side thing that they put in the game. Wasn't even anything all that spectacular when it first came out. And now we have games like Shin Megami Tensei and Pokemon that all came from Dragon Quest. A lot of these awesome RPGs that we have nowadays owes Dragon Quest their lives. So it is with great honor and a privilege I talk about this wonderful game. Anyway, Dragon Quest XI-S is what we're going to be getting into, and this game is amazing. The story, the gameplay, everything is rich, finely tuned, and crafted. Dragon Quest XI-S is the definitive version of Dragon Quest XI. It originally came out as Dragon Quest XI on PS4, and then it got released on, it came out on the Switch as Dragon Quest XI-S, and then now you can find Dragon Quest XI-S on all consoles now. But that's just how the order of operations goes. So, the little joke about what Dragon Quest S actually stands for, it stands for Dragon Quest XI Switch, Dragon Quest XI Super, Dragon Quest XI Supreme. I threw that in there for free. But anyways, Dragon Quest XI-S starts, in the kingdom of Dundrasil, okay? You are an heir to royalty, but that same night that you get born, and with a mark on your hand that lets you know that you are Yggdrasil's chosen. What is Yggdrasil? Well, if you saw it written down, you probably would say it wrong. I know I did the first time that I saw it, but Yggdrasil is a gigantic heavenly tree. Basically, in this land of Dragon Quest, it is basically God on earth. Jesus Christ on earth, if you will. It is the most heavenly, nice, good thing where all of the life comes from on all of Yggdrasil. It started from that tree, and that tree is huge, and it floats above the world, and it's connected to the world, but it's up very, 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 very high in its own area. And the garden around it, matter of fact, it's called the First Garden. So, a little bit of history on that, and what Yggdrasil is. And inside there is a weapon, and the hero gets it later on, but you start with that mark on your hand. You are chosen. Chosen for what? Well, to fight the evil. All of the evil for all time for this particular world in the Dragon Quest. In this Dragon Quest world, in this particular game. And so, the demons know it. The evil people know it. Oh, trust me, they know it. And that same very night that he is born and celebrated, that celebration is cut short as they just go ahead and ravage the whole kingdom. They get after the baby, but the baby gets away. He's put in the water, and then he's sent to this small village of Cobblestone, and then he's raised there, and he has no clue about what the mark on his hand means. And he knows he's seen it from time to time, but he has no clue about what it means. And as you play the game, it starts to come at random times. It really helps him and gets him through certain things, because, he's the hero. That is the plot armor for him. He has that mark on his hand, and you find out later what it is, and then when you become of age, you do the rite of passage in your cobblestone village, and then before you know it, you're going to the kingdom of... Oh my goodness, I forgot that kingdom's name. Anyway, you go to the first king. He looks like one of the androids. But he's not. He's just an old king, he's an old man, and so that's the design that Akira Toriyama uses. You know, this is artwork by Akira Toriyama, music by Koichi Sugiyama, the late Koichi Sugiyama, may he rest in peace, and then story by Yuji Horii. These men are awesome. These are some of the dream team when it comes to RPGs. Yuji Horii, Sakaguchi, Akira Toriyama are responsible for Chrono Trigger, which is another awesome game, but we're not talking about that. We're talking about Dragon Quest XI's. So eventually you go there and you go to the king and then you say, King, I have this mark on my hand. What does this mean? And the king is like, oh shoot, you are the Darkspawn. And he's totally twisting it around because the king is possessed by demonic forces. It's so crazy. So they flip the script. They basically put you and lock you up in there. You and Eric, you meet Eric in this prison and you guys break out of there. And then they're chasing you like a fugitive all across the kingdom. But luckily you got that mark on your hand that gets you out of sticky situations and you start talking to people and you start learning things about yourself that you didn't know, and eventually, it gets crazy. The game splits into a different timeline, and then because of your powers, you get to correct that timeline, then go back to the original one that you were flung from, and then stop the bullcrap before it even happens. It is just amazing. If I tell you any more, I feel I'm doing you a disservice in blowing the story for you, so I'm not going to say anything else. But yes, my friends, it's an awesome game, turn-based RPG. The battle system is buttery smooth. You can speed it up 4 times the speed, which is always much appreciated on any turn-based RPG where you're going to be doing a lot of combat, and combat is the name of the game. Being able to just go ahead and slide past that nonsense, slide past, the multiple battles in a very fast nature is always welcome and appreciated. I remember when I played the Final Fantasy VII, which is my favorite Final Fantasy, that was released on all consoles, all current gen consoles, and last gen, so I downloaded it on the Switch. I downloaded it, I played on the PS4 first, and I also have it on the Switch for old time's sake. But yes, they have it to where you can speed up the battles times 4, and I thought that was an amazing feature, because it made battles, and even the whole gameplay and just everything, go by way faster. So you could literally beat the game in half the time, or even less than that, because you're speeding it up. And I'm in the middle of playing Persona 5 Royale right now, and I can definitely say it's helping me skip along not just the battles, but the loads and loads amount of conversation and text. My goodness, if there's anything I cannot stand about some of these RPGs nowadays is the amount of words and text, and then that brings me to my next point, back to Dragon Quest XI's. They say exactly what they need to say in the right amount of text, so you're not spending all that time on the text. As a matter of fact, you can actually play that game in the full 3D way. You can even play it in the 2D way if you wanted to. And then in Japan only, they released a 3DS version of that game. So there's like literally 3 versions of this game, 2 versions of which you can switch back and forth to on the game. It's unbelievable. If you want to play that classic Dragon Quest 2D mode, you can do that. If you want to play the new and the 3D graphics, you can do that as well. So Dragon Quest XI's is one of my most favorite RPGs of all time. I played it twice. I played the original version that I got on PS4 Pro, and then I played the Dragon Quest XI's, which is the version I'm reviewing right now, on the Nintendo Switch. And because it first came out on there when it first came out, and that's the only game in recent years that I remember actually buying twice. I actually paid for that game twice. That's how good Dragon Quest XI's is. I implore you, I urge you, if you like RPGs and if you like fun, you will love it. There's no reason you will not. There's something in there for everybody, from the characters, the cutscenes. I just liked how they were able to put the conversations in there and not spend all day with it like a lot of these RPGs do nowadays. But it's very wonderful, very awesome. And so, yes, I mean, I don't usually give a game a score. It's either buy or don't, or, wait for a sale. I would say get this game, especially because it's on sale now. It's not even $50 anymore, or $60 anymore on some systems. It's on sale for like $20.99 and $19.99, and it's been out so long already. There's no excuse why you shouldn't have it. It is one of Square Enix's best. It is one of the oldest RPGs ever. We're talking about, this is the oldest RPG. Before Shin Megami Tensei, before Fire Emblem, before Final Fantasy, before all those guys, way before Pokemon, before Earthbound, before Super Mario RPG, before so many of those games. This was the forefront. Yes, it got its ideas from the old Dungeon and Dragon tabletop games. They wanted it simplified and wanted to find out, hey, how can we get a computer to be smart enough to do this? Well, they were able to do that through their home consoles. And, of course, it evolved into what it is today, and it's grown, and I love it. There's not a Dragon Quest game, there's not a future Dragon Quest game that I wouldn't buy. As a matter of fact, I got Dragon Quest Treasures as well, but I'm still in the middle of playing that. I'm in the middle of playing a lot of things, folks, just to let you know. Supreme Me, I wish I was supreme over the time, but the time goes, and I have only a limited amount of time and so many games to play. But Dragon Quest is awesome. There's really nothing bad that I can say about it. Oh yes, because you can switch back and forth for the games, if you really are playing to save time, I recommend you play in 2D mode, because the voices and them talking, the text, actually slows down the game. If time is of the essence for you, I recommend playing it in 2D mode, classic mode. If you have the time to spare, though, and you want to hear the voice actors and all that stuff in their wonderful voice acting glory, then I recommend you just do the 3D one. And plus, you're exploring, you're jumping, you're going over things, and, exploring the towns and everything like that, and that feels great, too. That's the way I played it in. I personally only played it in 2D when you had to go play it in 2D on the 2D modes, where you go to the little secret spirit town, and you see that little spirit guy in the top right corner of the Dragon Quest XI box art for the Nintendo Switch, and that's the little spirit guy that I'm talking about. But anyways, I appreciate you guys for listening. There's really nothing more for me to say besides buy this game, like, subscribe. I will see you on the next video. Supreme Me, out.